What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Taking on the Backlog. Today, I continued going down the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection with Final Fantasy III. Now, for those of you that don't know, this game came out in Japan in 1990, but for whatever reason, it did not come to the United States until they released it for the DS in 2006. So, this is my understanding anyway, is that they skipped over Final Fantasy 3, 4, and 5 and brought Final Fantasy VI over to the Super Nintendo here in the United States and called it Final Fantasy III. I don't know why, because after playing through this game, I purchased this game on the DS, I played through it, beat it, and now I'm playing it on the Pixel Remaster. And after playing through this game both times, this game was a lot of fun. I'm not fully sure why they decided not to release this back in 1990. Maybe they thought it was going to be too difficult or not enjoyable or something. I'm not sure, but this one was definitely a good continuation from Final Fantasy 1 and 2, and then now this one. All right, so we're jumping into the pros section, and the first pro I want to talk about is the length of the game. It's under 20 hours. Perfect. And for me, the second pro is I love the way the game looks. It continues building off of Final Fantasy 1 and 2, and it looks, in my opinion, even better. I think that I'm a big fan of that Super Nintendo, like big head, little body walking around on the big map type of graphics. I like how it's like a storybook come to life. So for me, graphically, definitely a huge plus, and in the pros column. Another pro for me is the turn-based combat. I am a fan of turn-based combat. I think it's very enjoyable, not overwhelming. It's one of those that type of games where, or type of style where you can kind of, you press the button and watch the attack. You don't have to go crazy. So on those days where you kind of like feel like you want to play a game, but you're kind of tired, you don't want to play anything where there's like a lot of button mashing. These are the type of games for me that really do a great job. So definitely another pro in my opinion. Another thing I was a fan of was the job system. I thought that was really neat. I like the fact that you can choose between many different classes. I think it's like 11 of them. But yeah, there's a bunch of different jobs. You can be a mage, you can be a black mage, white mage, red mage, you can be a warrior, a knight, a ninja, a dragoon. Like they let you pick a bunch of different things. Now, granted, they don't let you pick them all from the beginning. You gotta start with like one class and then move your way up. But I thought the class system was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. It gave you a chance to experiment with different jobs and see what you prefer to play with, because obviously each one is a little bit different from the previous one, or from different ones, because weapons, armor, they're stronger against certain enemies and stuff. So I thought that was really neat, and I actually did like that a lot. And the story to me is also a positive. It's four warriors of light. They are asked by crystals to save the world. Very simple, nothing too crazy. It's really strange. Final Fantasy really likes crystals in the beginning of their life, if you will. I've noticed that they're very heavy on crystals, because if I'm not mistaken, 1 and 2 also had crystals play a somewhat important part of the storyline. And here they are again. They're literally like some kind of powerful being in the crystal, and they are trusting these warriors to save them. So, but all in all, the story's not overly complicated, very simple, pretty straightforward. Gather the crystals, save the world, stop the bad guys. Pretty basic stuff, but still a pro. I think it works. It's part of its classic charm, if you will. All right, and now we're at the part where we're talking about the cons. Now, I know I just finished talking about how much I like the job system, and I do, but it is also a double-edged sword where it's also a con in my opinion, because there is way too many jobs, and in my opinion, they don't give you enough time to really dive deep into these jobs and explore them. And I feel like that's a great opportunity that was kind of missed. Like by the time you get like the ninja, for example, it's already so far into the game that you really only get them for a little bit. And I mean, there was so many jobs that I didn't even really touch, because they were either kind of similar to others and I didn't really see the point of needing to upgrade them, or like I said, it was one of those things where I would jump into a job, play, for a tiny bit as that new job, just for them to give me another set of jobs. And the other thing too is it's kind of tough to jump from an older job to a newer one when your character's already pretty powerful with the older one. So I don't know. The job system, I do like it a lot. It's great for adding some differences to the game. But in the same sense, I feel like it was one of those opportunities that was potentially missed, or maybe if they had just cut back on some of the jobs in general and not giving you so many to choose from. Um, it's not a big deal. Once again, I mean, it's not like it affects the game in any way that you're gonna dislike the game, but it is, in my opinion, still something worth bringing up where they're gonna give you. It almost seems like too much of with the jobs and what you can potentially do, and I feel like you're not gonna even touch half of these jobs. So I'm gonna have to put that into the con category. And then kind of branching off of that, another con that I have to put in there. I remember playing this on the DS or the 3DS, and I remember playing. I got to the part where you get into that last like dungeon area, and that last dungeon area is like a gauntlet. You have to go through. You're fighting random encounters. You're fighting. I think it's like four mini bosses or bosses. Then you still have to fight another boss. And I remember playing through that and being super irritated with the game because that last dungeon was brutal. And I had made the mistake when I had played this on the DS that I had changed their jobs, and then when I had jumped in there, realized that I needed like a magic character, because I think I did something dumb where I gave like, they were all four were like tanks. It was like or it maybe no, I'm sorry, three were tank type jobs and one was a white mage to heal. Well, as I started progressing through the game, through that dungeon, I realized that that system was not working. So I then went to go change one of the characters' jobs to back to being like some form of black mage or something like that, where he or she could use damaging attacks. But I had changed the job. I didn't have MP with me because I hadn't. I think I have to like go sleep in the bed. So then I had to truck my way back out of the dungeon, go out of the dungeon, out of that second that pyramid type building, and then go back into the airship to sleep. And I guess if I'm not mistaken, that's what ended up giving me my MP back. It's not a huge like thing where it ruined the game, but once again, a lot of unnecessary frustration for somebody who, like, if you're a first time player and you didn't realize it, or you're like me where you're not the smartest bulb in the box, you might fall into some kind of mistake where you're using the wrong jobs going through that, and you might not have like the proper weapons or the proper armor or magic or whatever, and now you're kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say like soft locked out of beating the game, but you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to beat the game with certain especially if you have certain jobs and certain combinations that do not favor it at all. um, so with that in mind, when I started playing this one, I did have a guide going with me at the same time as me playing it, because I remembered having trouble with that. And obviously I'm trying to platinum the game, so I have the guide kind of like, I play a little bit, then I stop, have the guide kind of let me know if I missed anything for trophy purposes. But I do remember that part being brutal, and thanks to the guide that the guide that I was following, that part was way more manageable. He suggests certain jobs, and he suggested certain things that you can do to help out to make the level much more bearable, and he was right. But I remember the first time playing it, it was brutal, and it was because I didn't follow a guide. I was trying to play it by myself, and I could see that also being a con and turning off people. So just be aware that the job system is great, but it's, like I said, a double-edged sword. Other than that, I don't really have any cons for this game. I actually really enjoyed this game. I think this one might be my favorite one so far. I mean, I liked one, and then I played two. I liked two better than one, and now I'm starting. I played three, and I think I like three better than two. So I'm really enjoying Final Fantasy. I'm really enjoying seeing how they're they grew from one all the way up, and I can't wait to start Final Fantasy 4. But in conclusion, guys, the this game is a beloved game. I've looked up some stuff. People seem to really enjoy Final Fantasy 3, as did I, and I think Final Fantasy 3 is a great addition to the Final Fantasy series. I liked seeing how one turned to two, then two turned to three. I liked the little jumps that they made and stuff like that to progress. So this was a lot of fun. This was very entertaining for me. I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is this one the best Final Fantasy? Well, at least out of the first three? Let me know in the comment section, guys. Later.